For Janet, this pregnancy wasn't just a surprise. It was a deeply personal decision that came after years of quiet reflection. Behind all the fame and legacy, she's still a woman who's lived through heartbreak, pressure, and the expectations of an entire world watching her every move. After decades of performing, creating, and constantly being in the public eye, Janet took a step back, not because she had to, but because she chose to. It was during this pause that she began to truly listen to herself. Privately, Janet had been dreaming about motherhood for a long time, but she always believed it would happen on her own terms in her own time. She once told a close friend, who later spoke to a magazine off the record, that she didn't want to rush a miracle. And when it finally happened, she didn't make a grand announcement. No press release, no headlines, just quiet joy. According to those close to her, Janet spent the first few months in total privacy, surrounded only by the people she trusted most. She turned off her phone for days at a time. She started writing in a journal again, something she hadn't done since her early music days. Every morning, she would sit by her window with a warm drink, place her hand on her belly, and just breathe. They say she called this time her season of softness. She listened to classical music. She read poetry. She even planted a small garden outside her home, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to feel connected to something growing, something real. For the first time in years, Janet was living just for herself, and for the tiny life quietly forming inside her. Friends who visited said they saw a new light in her eyes, something peaceful and unshakable. They didn't ask questions, they just sat with her, laughed with her, gave her space. She didn't owe anyone an explanation. She was nurturing not only her body but her heart, and preparing for a chapter she once thought might never come. Janet Jackson has always valued her privacy. She's one of those rare celebrities who never needed the spotlight to define her. But over the past few months, something felt different. Fans started noticing her absence from public events, her social media became unusually quiet, and in a few recent photos, there was something subtly changing. A softness in her face, a calm glow. Whispers started to grow louder. Was Janet going through something personal? Was she on a new journey? People speculated, the media guessed, but true to herself, Janet chose silence over noise. Until now. After weeks of mystery, she's finally broken her silence. And the news? It's not just special, it's deeply heartwarming. Janet Jackson has just confirmed that she's expecting, and it's a baby girl. Janet never liked making a scene. So when she finally decided to share her news with the world, it wasn't through a press conference, a flashy magazine cover, or a grand announcement. It was just her, sitting in a softly lit room, with no makeup, no filter, and no background music. Just honesty. She recorded a short video on her phone, holding it steady in her hands. She smiled the kind of smile that comes from deep peace, the kind that says, "I'm exactly where I need to be." And then, with that familiar calm in her voice, she said the words that stopped the internet in its tracks. "Hey everyone, I've been keeping something really close to my heart these past few months. I wasn't sure when or how to share it, but now feels right. I'm going to be a mother, and yes, it's a baby girl." It was simple, quiet, beautiful, and it was enough. Within minutes, the video went viral. Fans from around the world flooded the comments with love, congratulations, and emotional reactions. "She deserves this happiness," one fan wrote. Another said, "I've waited my whole life to see Janet become a mom." Hashtags like #BabyJanet, #QueeMom, and #JanetJacksonBabyGirl started trending across social media platforms. Celebrities, fellow artists, and fans alike shared the video with heartfelt messages and emotional reactions. But Janet didn't say much more. After the video, she didn't do any interviews or media rounds. That one message was all she needed to share. It was her truth, told in her way, on her terms. It wasn't about headlines, it was about connection. And in that short moment, the whole world felt closer to her than ever before. She reminded everyone that joy doesn't need permission, that you don't have to follow anyone else's timeline, and most of all, that some of the most beautiful chapters in life begin quietly when no one's watching. After the announcement, Janet didn't return to the spotlight. Instead, she stayed in her quiet space, focused entirely on the life growing inside her. But in a short, handwritten letter posted to her official website, something so personal and rare in today's world, she opened up about what this journey into motherhood truly meant to her, writing something like this at this stage in my life. I've lived many lives already, as a daughter, a sister, a performer. But this is something completely new, and somehow it feels like the beginning of everything. She talked about how motherhood wasn't something she rushed into. There were times in her life when it didn't feel possible or even right. Her career was intense, her schedule demanding, and there were personal struggles that the world never fully saw. But deep inside, the desire to become a mother never left her. She described it as a quiet voice she carried for years, soft, patient, always waiting. Now, that voice had become a heartbeat, a real living connection that she felt every time she woke up, every time she placed her hand on her belly, every time she heard her baby's tiny movements during late-night moments of stillness. Janet wrote that this baby girl, though not yet born, had already changed her. She said, "She's teaching me how to slow down, how to listen, how to be present. I've spent my whole life performing, always giving, always moving. But now, I'm learning how to simply be. And I think that's the most powerful lesson of all." She didn't glamorize it. She admitted there were days she felt overwhelmed, unsure, emotional. But she called those moments sacred too, because, in her words, this journey is not about perfection, it's about love. Throughout her career, Janet has often walked alone, not because she didn't have people around her, but because that's just who she is. Independent, private, protective of her peace. But during this new chapter, she allowed a small circle of love to step in, not to take over, but to simply walk beside her. Sources close to her shared that Janet created a calm, supportive environment where only a handful of people were allowed in. No drama, no noise, just genuine connection. Her team was the first to make adjustments, rescheduling commitments, turning down offers, and clearing her calendar for months ahead. Not a single person questioned it. They knew this was sacred. Her sisters were quietly emotional. They respected her space but called regularly to check in. One of them reportedly said, "Seeing Janet in this phase of life, it's like watching a flower bloom in slow motion. We've never seen her like this before, and it's beautiful." As for her brothers, there was a deeper emotion that ran through. For many, the memory of Michael still lingers, not as a shadow, but as a light. Some say Janet keeps a small photo of him near her bedside, not for nostalgia, but as a quiet reminder of where she came from and the love that built her. In one moment shared by a friend, Janet looked at that photo and whispered, "I hope he'd be proud." Her closest friends, artists, dancers, longtime collaborators, sent her handwritten letters, care packages, and even lullaby playlists. Missy Elliott, who's been a loyal friend for years, sent a voice note that reportedly made Janet cry. It wasn't flashy. It was just her saying, "You've given the world so much. Now let this little girl give you the world back." Even her medical team was handpicked, not just for skill, but for their energy. Janet wanted people around her who were calm, gentle, and deeply respectful of her space. She didn't want to feel like a celebrity patient. She wanted to feel like a woman becoming a mother. It wasn't a big crowd. It wasn't a celebrity-packed guest list. It was small, intentional, and real. The kind of circle that doesn't just celebrate you, but protects you. In their quiet presence, Janet found the strength to rest, to trust, and to dream, not just for herself, but for the daughter she couldn't wait to meet. Even in the stillness of this season, Janet has always been a woman who sees forward. She's not rushing toward the future, but she's quietly shaping it, one soft decision at a time. And while she hasn't made any public statements about career moves or big projects, those close to her say she's been dreaming again, but in a new way. This time, her dreams don't start with a tour bus or a studio. They start with a nursery, with the sound of tiny footsteps, with lullabies humming softly in the background, and with the warmth of a quiet morning spent holding her daughter close. One friend shared that Janet has been designing a journal, not for publishing, just for herself. A book filled with letters to her unborn child. Stories about her life, her lessons, her joys, and her regrets. A love letter across time. But there are whispers, gentle ones, about what might come later. A children's book inspired by her journey into motherhood. A small foundation in her daughter's name, focused on supporting young mothers and women's health. Even a future musical project, described as softer, more intimate, and deeply personal. Nothing is confirmed, nothing is promised, and that's exactly how Janet wants it. No pressure, no deadlines, just honest creation.